I collapsed at work and ended up in emergency surgery. My parents didn't come. They had dinner to attend. That was the moment I stopped waiting for them to choose me. The first thing I noticed when I opened my eyes was the ceiling. White, flat, indifferent, the kind of ceiling that belongs to no one. Then the beeping of the monitor to my left, steady and unhurried. Then the soreness in my throat, raw from the breathing tube. Then the ache deep in my abdomen, dull and throbbing beneath whatever medication they had me on. I turned my head slowly and found Aunt Paula sitting beside me, her hand resting over mine on top of the thin hospital blanket. Uncle Jeff was in the chair next to her, a pillow crease running down his left cheek, his eyes quiet and steady. It was close to 2 a.m. I looked at them for a long moment. Then I looked at the other side of the room, 2 empty chairs pushed back against the wall. "They didn't come," I said. "Not a question." "No, baby," Aunt Paula said softly. "They didn't." I turned back toward the ceiling. Something settled inside me then, not rage, not the sharp sting of surprise, 'cause I wasn't surprised. Something quieter than that. More final. Like a door I had been holding open my whole life, waiting, finally swinging shut on its own. I closed my eyes. "My name is Candice Norman. I'm 28 years old. I live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment 6 blocks from the financial company where I work as a supervisor. I am good at my job. I keep my apartment clean. I cook real meals on weeknights and sleep well and call Aunt Paula every Sunday. I also have a mother named Laura and a father named Frank and a younger sister named Josie. And for most of my life, I told myself that things would get better, that they would eventually see me, that someday I wouldn't have to compete for the space I already deserved. But to understand how I ended up in that hospital room, you have to understand where I came from, and that means talking about Josie. Josephine Norman, Josie, is 2 years younger than me and has been the center of our family's universe since she could read chapter books at age 4. My parents, Frank and Laura, never let you forget it. Josie is genuinely brilliant. Book smart in the way that makes teachers go quiet. I never disputed that. What I noticed, even as a kid, was the other side of her. Because for all that intelligence, Josie could not handle one single moment where she wasn't the center of attention. The second anything shifted away from her, she would unravel. Tantrums dressed up as tears, manipulation wearing the face of fragility, emotionally dysregulated, gifted and fragile, so praised for her brilliance that nobody ever taught her how to share a spotlight or sit with discomfort for 5 minutes without making everyone around her pay for it. My parents saw her meltdowns and thought, she needs more care, more protection, more of us. They never once considered that what she actually needed was a boundary. My birthday is in May, Josie's is in August. You would think 3 months apart was enough distance to give each of us our own day. Every May, without fail, Josie would decide she didn't want to wait for August. The streamers would go up for both of us. The cake would be for both of us. Any gift I received from relatives would trigger that particular stillness in Josie, the quiet right before the storm. And by the time the tantrum was over, whatever I had been given somehow ended up being hers. A jewelry box once, white with painted roses, a tiny ballerina that spun when you opened it. I loved it the moment I saw it. My mom knocked on my door an hour later. "Maybe let Josie borrow it for a while," she said, "just until she feels better." I never got it back. After a few years, they stopped throwing me a birthday party altogether. We went to dinner instead, just the 4 of us, and by the time the waiter brought out a cupcake with a candle, Josie had already turned the conversation to something she'd done at school. I blew out the candle without making a wish. I had stopped believing wishes worked. Prom was the night things finally broke open. Aunt Paula had taken me shopping 2 weeks before. She found me the most beautiful dress I had ever seen. Teal, floor-length, beaded details along the bodice. She bought it before I could protest and told me I deserved something that made me feel like myself. I hung it on the back of my closet door and looked at it every morning. The morning of prom, I found it on the floor. Ink across the entire front. Deep, permanent blue-black from a dip pen, dragged deliberately across the fabric, the whole bodice, ruined. Josie was at the kitchen table eating cereal when I came downstairs holding it. "What happened to my dress?" I said. "Oh my gosh," she said, eyes wide. "I was using my dip pen for calligraphy and I must have knocked the bottle." You did this on purpose. It was an accident. Then the tears came. Fast, practice, total. My mom came running. Within 2 minutes, I had somehow become the aggressor. Josie was the victim, and my dad was telling me to leave. My mom slapped me before I made it to the door. I didn't cry. I just looked at her. Then I picked up my phone and called Aunt Paula. She arrived in 20 minutes. She walked in, looked at the dress, looked at my face, and turned to my parents with an expression I had never seen on her before. "What is wrong with you two?" she said. Quietly, which was worse than shouting. "If you don't want her here," she continued before either of them could speak, "she will live with us. Jeff and I will take her today. Say the word." My parents didn't say the word, but the house went quiet, and a few days later they told me I could come back. I stayed because it was easier. I kept my head down. I counted the months. When moving day finally came, my parents were there to help. Or so I thought. They had barely started loading boxes into the car when Josie appeared at the top of the stairs, pale-faced, one hand on the railing. "I don't feel good," she said. Her voice was thin and carefully fragile. I watched my parents' faces do that thing, the calculation, the tilt. I put down the box I was carrying. "It's okay," I said. "I can do it myself. Go see Josie." I paused. "She might throw a tantrum if you choose me over her." I didn't say it with venom. I said it the way you state a fact about the weather, because that's what it was by then, just a fact, plain and weathered and completely unsurprising. My mom stepped forward and hugged me. I let her arms come around me, but I didn't hug her back. I stood there with my arms at my sides and waited for it to be over. "Call us when you get to your apartment," my dad said from the doorway. I picked up my box and walked to my car. I never called, and they never asked for the address. 4 years later, I put myself through college on 2 jobs and a scholarship I applied for without telling anyone. No financial help from home, no care packages, no check-ins about my grades. When graduation came, I called my parents, not to ask, just to let them know. "I'm graduating next Saturday," I said, when my mom picked up. "I just wanted to let you know. If you want to come, come. If not, it's nothing new." There was a pause on the other end. "Candice, of course we want to come," my mom started. "I know if you come here, your princess will pretend to be sick," I said, not unkindly, just honestly. "So if you can't make it, it's okay. Aunt Paula and Uncle Jeff will be there, so I won't be missing any family." Another pause, longer this time. "Are you okay?" my mom asked. "You seem—" "I'm okay," I said. "I'll see you Saturday or I won't. Either way, I'll be fine." I hung up and went back to ironing my graduation gown. They didn't come. Aunt Paula and Uncle Jeff were in the 3rd row center with a banner that was honestly embarrassing and completely perfect. Uncle Jeff cried, which he would deny for the rest of his life. Aunt Paula took about 400 photos. I walked across that stage and thought, I built this. Every single piece of it by myself. It was one of the best days of my life. In the years that followed, I kept showing up to family dinners. Not often, but enough. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that family was family. That maybe things would be different now that we were all adults. They weren't different. I remember one dinner in particular, a Sunday in early autumn, the kind of evening where the light through the dining room window turns everything gold, and you want so badly for it to feel like something good. Josie was talking. She was always talking at those dinners, about her coursework, her professors, some competition she had entered, some award she was expecting. My mom kept refilling her water glass and nodding with this expression of pure, uncomplicated pride. My dad leaned back in his chair with his arms crossed, chuckling at whatever she said. I sat at my end of the table and moved the food around my plate and listened to the sound of my own family talking around me like I wasn't there. "Are you okay, Candice?" my mom asked, glancing over as she poured iced tea into her glass. I looked up. Josie was still talking. My dad was still chuckling. "I'm okay," I said, slicing through a piece of apple pie. "Nothing's wrong." My mom nodded and turned back to Josie mid-sentence, already reabsorbed. I chewed slowly and looked at the 3 of them and thought, this is what I drove 40 minutes for. This is what I put on a nice top for. To sit here and take up space and listen to Josie talk about herself while my parents orbit her like she's the only planet in the room. All I could hear was background noise. I couldn't wait to go home. After a while, I stopped going. Not dramatically. I didn't announce it, I just started being unavailable. Busy with work, tired after the week. Something came up. The invitations kept arriving, and my responses got shorter and then mostly stopped, and for a long time nobody said a word about it, which told me everything I needed to know. It started as a dull ache somewhere in my side on a Wednesday morning. I noticed it the way you notice a sound in another room, present but ignorable. I had a full day of work ahead of me and a report due by noon, so I took 2 ibuprofen and kept moving. By Thursday it was louder. Still manageable, but the kind of pain that makes you shift in your chair every few minutes, that follows you from meeting to meeting and reminds you it's still there every time you forget about it for a second. I should have gone to a doctor Thursday night. I didn't. I told myself it was probably nothing. I was good at telling myself that. Friday morning, I made it as far as my desk. I was in the middle of reviewing a spreadsheet when the pain shifted from something I was managing to something that was managing me. It hit hard and fast, sharp and focused in my lower right side, the kind that takes your breath clean away. I gripped the edge of my desk and tried to breathe through it, and couldn't. My boss, Richard, was walking past my office when he looked through the glass and saw my face. "Candice." He was already opening the door. "What's wrong?" "I'm okay," I started. "You are not okay," he said. "I'm calling 911. "Richard, I really think—" "I'm calling 911, he said again, already reaching for his phone. And he did. The paramedics came, there was a stretcher and elevator doors, and the strange embarrassment of being wheeled through your own office while your colleagues stop what they're doing and stare. I remember thinking, I'm going to have to send a very normal email on Monday explaining that I'm fine. At the hospital, the ER doctor pressed carefully along my right side, watched my face, and ordered blood work and an ultrasound. When he came back, he had the look that doctors get when they already know what they're about to say. "Appendicitis. We need to get you into surgery today." "Okay," I said. I had always been calm in emergencies. It was the quiet things that undid me. They moved me to a pre-op room and got me settled, and I lay on that narrow bed under a thin blanket, listening to the hospital move around me. Low voices, soft footsteps, monitors beeping somewhere down the hall. And I asked the nurse if she could help me make a call. "Of course," she said. "Family?" I thought about that for a second. "My aunt and uncle," I said. "Please let them know I'm here." Aunt Paula also called my parents. She told me this afterward, without my asking, because that was the kind of person she was. She wanted me to know the full truth of things. My mom picked up. Aunt Paula explained everything. Emergency surgery. Today. St. Catherine's. "Your daughter needs you. Come now." My mom said they couldn't come. Josie's fiancé, Ashton, was having dinner at the house that evening. Ashton, whose father was my dad's boss. That dinner had been on the calendar for 6 weeks. The good dishes were out. The house had been freshened up all week. My dad had been coming home early every day to make sure everything was perfect. They couldn't cancel. They had dinner to attend. The anesthesiologist had a kind voice. She told me to count backward from 10. I made it to 7. When I opened my eyes, the ceiling was white and flat, and the monitor beside me was beeping steady and slow. My throat was raw. My abdomen ached deep beneath the medication. I turned my head. Aunt Paula's hand was over mine. Uncle Jeff sat beside her, a pillow creased down his left cheek, his eyes quiet and awake. It was close to 2 in the morning. They had been there the whole time. I looked at the two of them for a long moment. Then I looked at the empty chairs pushed back against the opposite wall. "They didn't come," I said. "No, baby," Aunt Paula said softly. "They didn't. Of course they didn't." I turned back to the ceiling and lay very still and felt something settle inside me, final and quiet and completely without drama. I was done waiting. I was done hoping. I was done. I was discharged 2 days later. Aunt Paula and Uncle Jeff drove me home and stocked my refrigerator and stayed until I'd told them twice that I was genuinely fine. I did not contact my parents. No text, no call. I had nothing to say that wouldn't cost me more than I was willing to spend. 3 weeks later, my mom called. "Candice, hi. How are you feeling? Paula mentioned you had surgery." "I'm okay," I said. "That must have been so scary being alone like that." "I wasn't alone," I said. "Right," Paula was there. A brief pause. "Well, Josie's engagement dinner went wonderfully, Ashton's family is just lovely and Josie is absolutely glowing. They're already talking about a spring wedding. Okay, Mom, I have to go. I finally cut her off. Oh, already? Yeah, bye. I hung up and made a cup of tea and sat by my window and felt completely fine. My dad called a few weeks after that. Josie's engagement party is the 14th, he said. We'd love for you to be there. Okay, I said. So you'll come? Okay, Dad. Good. Your mother's been planning the menu all. I have to go. Talk soon. I didn't go to the engagement party. I made pasta and watched a documentary about deep-sea creatures and had a genuinely nice evening. I didn't go to the birthday dinners or the anniversary or Christmas. My responses to invitations got shorter and then stopped coming at all. Eventually, my mom called with a sharper edge in her voice. Why are you being so cold? She asked. You don't need me there, I said. Josie is with you. That's enough. What does that mean? I have to go. Bye, Mom. I put the phone down and went back to my report. The windows were open. The evening air was cool. Life was quiet and entirely mine. I was done explaining myself. August 14th is Josie's 26th birthday. I had booked the cruise 4 months earlier that month on a lunch break. 7 days, round trip from Miami, Nassau, and the Bahamas, balcony cabin, all-inclusive. The kind of trip I had been saving toward since I was 24, always telling myself someday. Someday had arrived. I drove to Aunt Paula and Uncle Jeff's on a Saturday morning in early August, the printed cruise confirmation folded in my jacket pocket. Aunt Paula answered the door in her gardening clothes, trowel in hand, soil on her forearm. We weren't expecting you, she started. Good, I said. I wanted to surprise you. Uncle Jeff appeared behind her in the hallway, coffee in one hand, newspaper under his arm, reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He looked at my face and then at my jacket pocket. What's going on? I pulled out the envelope and held it out. Aunt Paula tucked the trowel under her arm, wiped her hands on her jeans, and opened it carefully. I watched her read. I watched the exact moment it landed, her eyes going wide, her free hand rising slowly to cover her mouth. Candice. The Bahamas, I said. August 14th. You're both coming with me. Uncle Jeff took the paper from her hands and read it himself, glasses coming down off his forehead. Then he read it again. Then he looked up at me with bright eyes and said, Kid? Just that, just my name. Like he needed a second to find the rest. And then Aunt Paula grabbed me, both arms, full hug, the trowel still in her hand somewhere behind my back. She held on tight and made a sound that was half laugh and half something else entirely, and I held her back, properly this time, both arms all the way. Oh my God, she said into my shoulder. Oh my God, Candice. You've been showing up for me my whole life, I said. Let me take you somewhere. She pulled back and looked at my face, her eyes wet, and then laughed again because she was clearly trying not to cry and failing completely. Uncle Jeff was still holding the confirmation like it was a certified check. He kept looking at it, and then looking at me, and then looking back at it. A cruise, he said. An actual cruise. An actual cruise, I confirmed. Paula? He turned to her. We need to go buy things. I know. I am almost completely out of sunscreen. He said. Jeff? I need a hat. Do I have a hat? I don't think I have a good hat. You have 3 hats, Aunt Paula said. None of them are cruise hats. He was already moving down the hallway in his pajama pants, paper still in hand, apparently making a mental inventory of everything he needed to acquire before August 14th. Candice, do you need sunscreen? I'm going to the store. Jeff, she just got here. I know. He stopped in the hallway and turned back around, and for a moment his face went very still, the way it did when he was feeling something too big for jokes. We used to talk about this, you know, Paula and I, years ago when things were tight. We had this list, things we'd do someday when we had enough saved up. A cruise was on it, so was skiing in Colorado. He folded the paper one more time, slow and deliberate, and tucked it into his pajama pocket. We kind of stopped talking about the list after a while. The hallway went quiet. Aunt Paula looked at him, then at me, her hand over her heart. Well, I said, we're starting with the cruise. Uncle Jeff nodded, cleared his throat, pointed at me. I'm getting the sunscreen. He disappeared into the house. Aunt Paula shook her head, laughing and wiping her eyes at the same time, and hugged me again, shorter this time, but just as real. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." "Don't thank me yet," I said. "He's going to spend 45 minutes in the sunscreen aisle." From somewhere deep in the house, Uncle Jeff called out, "Should I get the SPF 50 or the SPF 70? Paula, what's the sun like in the Bahamas?" Aunt Paula and I looked at each other. "SPF 70, she called back. "I'm getting both." The ship left Miami at 6 in the evening on August 14th. We stood on the balcony of our cabin as the port got smaller behind us and the ocean opened up ahead, huge and blue and indifferent to everyone's problems on shore. I took photos all week. Aunt Paula in her sun hat laughing at the bow. Uncle Jeff deeply, almost personally offended by the pool bar's cocktail menu, which he studied like a legal document before ordering something called a sunset punch and immediately declaring it the best drink he'd ever had. The three of us at dinner the first night, dressed up, leaning together the way people do when they're happy and don't have to think about it. I posted them all to Facebook that evening, wine in hand, the sound of water somewhere below us. The caption was simple, "Grateful for the people who always show up." I put my phone face down on the table and enjoyed the rest of my dinner. 4 days in, Aunt Paula checked her messages over breakfast and told me quietly what had happened at home. Josie had seen the photos on her birthday. And Josie being Josie, she had come apart, not quietly, not privately, but completely and in front of Ashton. The jealousy, the anger, the inability to let someone else exist happily without making it about herself. He had seen it raw, with nowhere to hide. He broke up with her the following day. I sat with that. The ocean was brilliant. A pelican flew past the railing at eye level, hung there for a second, and dropped into the water and came back up. "How do you feel?" Aunt Paula asked carefully. I picked up my coffee. "I feel like this breakfast is exceptional," she laughed. Uncle Jeff stared at the horizon and pretended he hadn't heard anything, which was exactly right. My parents called on day 5. I was on the balcony watching the sun go down over Nassau, orange and deep pink layering into each other, the water going copper, the whole horizon looking painted. I answered because the view made me generous. "We saw your photos," my dad said. "I know," I said. "You took Paula and Jeff on a cruise." The hurt was coming through, sharpening towards something. "We're your parents. We should have been there." "Because they were there for me when I needed you," I said, "and they always show up." "We had a situation that night." "Dad," I kept my voice even. "I was in emergency surgery. You chose dinner." "We are your parents," he said. "Whatever you think happened, we love you." "I know," I said, "and I have my parents with me." Silence, long and full and carrying everything that had been left unsaid for years. "Candice, I have to go, Dad. Enjoy your evening." I hung up. I looked back at the sky. The sun was gone, but the color was still there, bleeding wide across the horizon, rose deepening into violet at the edges. Behind me, through the balcony door, I could hear Aunt Paula asking Uncle Jeff whether her earrings matched. Him saying everything she wore matched. Her saying that wasn't an answer, him laughing. I sat there one more minute and just listened. Then I went inside to get dressed. I had a good evening ahead of me, and I wasn't going to miss a single minute of it. A month after I got home from the cruise, my parents called and asked me to come to dinner. They said we needed to talk. Something in my dad's voice was different, flatter, older. So I said yes. The house looked the same. It always looked the same. My mom had made pot roast and the good china was out, which meant something was happening that they wanted to feel formal about. Josie was at the table when I walked in. She didn't look at me. She was staring at her plate with her jaw set, and I could tell from the tension in her shoulders that she had been crying recently and was determined not to do it again in front of me. We sat down. My mom served. My dad cleared his throat. "So," he said, "as you may have heard, Josie and Ashton are no longer together." "I heard," I said. "It was because of you," Josie said, still looking at her plate. "Because of your photos, because of what you did." I picked up my fork and cut into the pot roast and chewed slowly and set the fork back down. "The photos on Josie's birthday," my mom said carefully. "You have to understand how that looked, Candice, and why you would take Paula and Jeff instead of us," my dad added, leaning forward. "We still don't understand that. We are your parents." I looked at my dad, then my mom, then I set my napkin on the table. You want to know why I've been cold? I said. You want to know why I stopped calling, stopped showing up, stopped trying? I kept my voice level. Because every single time I tried to explain myself in this family, I was wrong. My feelings were wrong, my timing was wrong, my reaction was wrong. I was always the one who needed to understand, to adjust, to make room. I spent years trying to be heard in this house, and I was never, not once, actually heard. My mom opened her mouth. I'm not finished, I said quietly. She closed it. I was in emergency surgery. You chose a dinner party. And I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because that one moment told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in this family. So I stopped explaining myself. Because what is the point of explaining yourself to people who have already decided the answer? The table was very quiet. My dad looked at the tablecloth. My mom looked at her hands. Even if I had invited you on that cruise, I continued, you wouldn't have come. You know that. She would have found a reason, and you would have chosen her. Same as always. I pushed my chair back slightly. I'm tired. I'm done. And if you can't see what's wrong in this family, if you genuinely cannot see it, then so be it. It's okay. You can cut me off. I don't care anymore. You have Josie. She needs more attention. I looked at them both steadily. You don't need me. Josie needs more. My mom started. I know, I said. She always has. And you've always given it to her. That's fine. That's your choice. I'm just done waiting for mine. I picked up my fork and finished what was on my plate because the pot roast was actually good and I hadn't eaten since noon. Then I set my napkin down and reached for my purse. I should go, I said. Thanks for dinner. It's your fault my fiancé left me, Josie said. Low and tight. I paused. I looked at her, really looked at her, for a long, unhurried moment. This woman who had been given everything this family had to offer, every birthday, every gift, every room, every ounce of attention, and still somehow found a way to reach across the table and take whatever small thing was left on my side. Believe what you want to believe, Josie, I said. Just cut me off as your sister. I don't care anymore. I'm done. Blame me for everything. If that's the story that makes sense to you, then go ahead and tell it. I pulled my jacket off the back of my chair. My mom made a sound like she was about to speak. My dad sat very still with his eyes on the tablecloth. Josie finally looked up at me, and whatever she saw on my face made her look back down again. I walked to the front door and let myself out. I stood on the porch for a moment in the cool night air, breathed in, breathed out, and felt something I hadn't expected. Nothing. Not sadness, not anger, not the old hollow ache of wanting something they couldn't give. Just clean, open air, and the quiet knowledge that I was done. Not just for tonight, but permanently, completely, in a way that finally felt like freedom rather than defeat. I got in my car, sat there a moment with my hands on the wheel and the neighborhood quiet around me. In time, maybe, they would understand. Maybe one day my parents would sit at that table and look at each other and finally see clearly what they had traded away, piece by piece, over all those years. Maybe Josie would grow into someone who could hold her own happiness without needing to take from someone else's. Maybe. I genuinely hoped so, for all their sakes, but I wasn't waiting around to find out. I started the car and pulled out onto the street. The city was lit up ahead of me, and the night was long, and I was tired in the best possible way, the kind of tired that comes after something is finally, truly over. Somewhere on the drive home, I found myself smiling, just a little, just to myself. I reached over and patted the stack of brochures sitting on the passenger seat beside me. Colorado ski lodges. I had picked them up on my lunch break earlier that week, already knowing how tonight was going to go. Uncle Jeff had said they stopped talking about the list. I intended to work through every single item on it. They had been showing up for me since I was 7 years old. I was just getting started. So that is our story for today. I'm sorry I haven't been posting a lot lately. I'm running out of ideas, you guys. I hope you liked this one. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe. I will be so grateful if you do. It really does help this small channel grow, and it means the world to me. Also, where are you listening from? Let me know in the comments. I read everything, and it is just amazing to know where these stories reach you. Thank you so much for listening. This is Melodic Vengeance. I will see you on the next one. You take care, okay?
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.